pulse of all things markets. Trader Peter Tuchman, live from the New York Stock Exchange. Peter, let me just tackle Megacap tech. It is floundering right now. Nvidia is the worst performer of the Mag 7. And the rest don't look that much better here, but you've got the semis looking very unhealthy at the moment. What are you seeing there on the floor that gives you an indication that this is either serious or just a sell-off, summer sell-off?
You know what? I loved your whole line about the schlepping at the non-numbers. That was a great way to start off the session. But anyway, look, we cannot overreact. One tends to get catastrophist about 1 or 2 days of the sell-off in tech. I mean, let's think about it. If you want to weigh this out, you've had nothing but up. I mean, Palantir was, less than a year ago trading at $37. It was the flavor of the moment, along with Nvidia. There's rotation going on here. This is not major dumping. I mean, maybe people are hopping on board after the second or third day. There were a couple of downgrades in tech and in Palantir. And look, there's so much profit here in Palantir. Anybody who's been in it for the last 6 months or a year, obviously maybe wanting to get out of there and find some of the mid-cap or the transports to rotate into. I would not overreact to it. It's not the end of the world. Look, I always look at it and say, has anything fundamentally changed in Palantir, which was why they were buying it for the last 2.5 years? No. So 1 day, 2 days does not make a market. People are rotating out of things that are outperforming. Yes, maybe there's a little bit of irrational enthusiasm over the last maybe $10 or $20 of the stock. So as far as that goes, people are going to take some profits and move on to other names. That's just normally the way rotation happens. When the market does what it's doing over the last couple of weeks, people are not really clear what direction is going to be the next thing. Are we building a foundation to go higher, or are we hitting up against some technical resistance? Either way, they're going to get out of some outperformers and get into some mid-cap, small-cap, and maybe the transports. Maybe that's why you're seeing that part of the sector rallying.
You know what's weird, though, is that they're pulling out of an Nvidia, for example, on the very day that the CEO, Jensen Huang, is saying that they are about to get ready to develop or ship this specifically made chip for China, because, of course, there are all kinds of government restrictions that they don't want to give them the best chips. So Nvidia is putting together this specialized chip. That's in the news today, and you would think that that would be a new revenue stream, and yet Nvidia is pulling back. In fact, 2 days, as you see, down.
But not necessarily, Liz, because if you look at the history of that story, there was a while there where the president decided he was going to outlaw Nvidia from selling that chip. And then you saw that they were not going to give up $20 billion of potential revenues to Huawei. And so that story has morphed itself into a story that not necessarily is that positive right now. So while you're announcing that, look, there's a lot of great stories in the Nvidia story, with it being best of breed and with Jensen Huang being, the top. He's developing a really wonderful relationship with the president. So one story is also not going to keep people out of also taking profits in a stock that is, that's on fire. It's been on fire for the longest time. 2023, Liz, the stock was trading at $108. It's now trading at $150, $60, $70, close to a 10-for-1 split. So we have to look at everything in perspective. One day is not going to completely dismantle. Has anything fundamentally changed in any of the stories of big tech? Not really. So these are just rotations of sectors, I think.
Well, look where they're rotating. Something not as sexy, but certainly, listen, I mean, you look at the truckers. If you look at the transports right now, this really jumped out at me, and I said, we got to show our viewers this. The transports are outperforming everything right now, and the top 5 performers are these truckers: Old Dominion, Knight Transportation, XPQ, JB Hunt Transport. Suddenly, industrial machinery type of stuff, heavy trucking is really getting people excited. It's kind of interesting.
Let's look at who is actually, look, what's happening with the market is we're starting to see the impact of the tariffs, right? Whether some companies are going to be passing on the expense to the customers or some going to absorb it. We saw that with Amazon. Came out with good earnings, yet the stock's first impulse was to go lower because they're accepting a lot of those charges themselves and not passing it on to the customer. Now we're seeing, as that story of the tariffs start to grow a little bit, we're seeing a number of these companies passing it on to the consumer. And so we're we're going to see those guys sort of get hit a little bit. The transportations are not the ones who are going to be charged the tariffs. They're the ones that are transporting goods that are being tariffed on their own. So they're not necessarily the one that are going to have as much impact by the tariff story. And so I think that's why they're an attractive source of rotation right now.
Yep, and suddenly the choo-choos, we're seeing a lot of consolidation there. We just showed CSX, which is one of the leaders here, hitting a new high, up about 1 1/3%. Yeah. There's an activist investor involved there. What did I tell our viewers? That Peter Tuchman has his finger on the pulse of all things markets. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. My pleasure. Always great to hear.